Season 8 ended with the heartbreaking death of Bobby.
Gosh.
Since episode 815 aired, we've heard that Tim Minear sort of called cast members to break the news. Could you share a bit about your call and just your initial reaction when you learned Peter would be leaving?
Yeah. I think we were about to start filming um one of the episodes. It was like the first day of shooting for that episode. And we're about to go in for my coverage and I get a call from Tim. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I've definitely got to take this. Take it. He drops the news and I'm just like, uh okay. And I honestly didn't even know how to process it, you know? Tim was like, all right, I gotta hop on, I gotta call some other people. I'm like, okay, all right. And then like we go in for the take, and the entirety of the time, like I didn't know who he had already talked to. I
Mhm.
didn't know like what crew members or anyone knew. And so I was just kind of sitting there with like all that knowledge. And it was like they say not to be in your head, especially when you're shooting something. And like
Yeah,
that entire day, I was just kind of in my head because I'm like, like you said, it is the patriarch, right? It's dad. He's dying for lack of a better word, and it's like shock. I mean, it was just so many questions. That was the main thing. Like, how long have they been talking about this? Did Pete? Did you know all of these things? And obviously, most of the questions got answered later on. But yeah, I mean, just the full spectrum of emotions was felt that day.
the great Angela Bassett mentioned in one interview, I think, that it may have been a misdirect, but she read the character who was initially said to die was Robbie. Were you
Yeah,
were you aware of that? And did you think at some point before you found out that you were the one leaving this season?
yeah. I mean, there was like a little bit of that, and then it was teased a little bit, and then Tim told me, hey, this is the situation, this is what's going on. And so it was I'm definitely having to like keep my cool, keep my composure, but at the same time I have to like pretend like, oh man, it's gonna be rough. Because some people would come up to me and they'd be like, oh hey, I'm so sorry you're leaving the show. And I'm like, yeah, it's rough. It's been a great time, and just like kind of lying through my teeth. And there
Mhm.
was a funny situation where somebody had come up to me and they had already known the truth, but like they didn't know if I knew the truth that I wasn't
Oh
actually
no.
dying. So the two of us were just kind of going back and forth, just like just this veneer of lies to
Oh
each
my
other.
God.
I do appreciate that they did that because it's something that's like this is a bombshell, and I think you have to kind of hold that information in.
Ravi doesn't knowingly get to say goodbye to Bobby. Is there anything you can share about your own sort of on-set goodbye with Peter?
There's a lot of crying, yeah, a lot of crying in the makeup trailer, a lot of crying on set. I had kind of my own, after everything wrapped up, I talked to him and kind of had my own personal words with him, told him everything and like how much he meant to me and all of that. Um, I will say this, acting during those scenes, especially at the very end, during the funeral, all of that, none of it was really acting, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? It was obviously Peter's not dying, but because he's been a part of this family for so long, it feels like you're losing an appendage, like a part of yourself. And so when we're all standing in that line, staring at the Nash turnout coat as it's like kind of going away in this fire truck, that was like, I mean, most of us were kind of containing ourselves because we're like, okay, don't cry. Like that, you can't cry. This, like this is just going to be waterworks of like he's gone. And so yeah, I mean that was like the main aspect to it. I am glad that I got to spend, I think, that last day that he was working, shooting a scene with him.
There's a poignant line I thought about a lot in episode 815 where Ravi sort of thinks they might not make it out of the lab alive, and he tells Hen, I know the risks of the job, but at what point do I call? And it
Yeah.
reminds us that he has loved ones out there we've never met. We haven't
Yeah.
a ton about him outside of the job. We know he's a cancer survivor. He had PTSD from this big off-duty save.
Yeah.
But regarding like his backstory, family, life outside of the firehouse, is that something you'd like to explore further? And have there maybe been any conversations about a Ravi Vegans type episode down the line?
Sure. I've definitely kind of thrown things towards the writers, just kind of my own personal ideas. I think piggybacking off the fact that he is a landlord, so he
Yes.
said generational wealth, he's on his way to doing it. So I'd really love to explore that aspect. And I think it does kind of set up this entire, it deepens the reasons why he's a firefighter, and I think that's something very interesting to explore. Um, but yeah, no, I haven't had specific conversations about Robbie Begins, but I've definitely thrown kind of like my ideas towards it of like, oh, what could he potentially be doing? You know, what is that backstory? What is between him getting over cancer to now owning 3 apartment buildings and becoming, you know, a firefighter? What
Yeah.
is that life? So hopefully, fingers crossed. Man, I have like a journal that I've kind of kept over the years, just kind of almost like a day in the life of Ravi. So there's like little things like, oh, the music that he's listening to. He was on
Yeah.
a Benson Boone kick for a while, and obviously much of it is reflective. It's what I'm bringing to the table as well. But yeah, I try to kind of personalize it as much as possible because that helps.
So many people, myself included, have been begging for you to be a series regular for years.
Yeah.
What has that fan response meant to you? And is Ravi Main, as the kids call it, something you're hopeful for in season 9? Have there been any conversations around that that you're able to share?
Yeah, nothing that I can really share, but I'm hopeful for it, definitely. And I think you're asking what that makes me feel like. And I think it's just to have a fan base that's so strong, that's so supportive, and like just kind of so kind also is kind of unheard of in some places, you know? And so opening up my Twitter every day and like just seeing the kind of like the outpouring of support is just one of those like it helps me continue to do what I do in a sense, you know? And if it does kind of take the selfishness out of it, and it's almost like, listen, I have to do the character of Ravi justice, not for just for myself, but for everybody watching, for the audience, all that sort of thing.